Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 11. Anyway, let's read it. Chapter 9, verse 11. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to men of understanding, nor favor to men of skill, but time and chance happen to them all. Now, I kept getting this word. The word, the idea that came to me was randomness. Randomness. Because here in the book of Ecclesiastes, it says time and chance. And really can be also, this word chance in the King James and some other translations could also be translated occurrences. When translated chance, it seems to connote randomness. Time and chance happens to them all. Like buying a ticket for a lottery, right? You're taking a chance. You're buying what we call a chance. And when it gets up over 40 million, people just take a bunch of money and they buy a bunch of chances. And then it goes up and up and up until some person wins the lottery. It's called a chance. I remember my first day on a job with this construction company that I worked with in Sacramento. And the boss was a religious man. And you know, when you go to work and you're getting an orientation for your job, and he's telling you what your job is going to be and what's required and what's expected, and getting you familiarized with their method of operation in the business, somehow it all became a religious discussion all of a sudden. I think he knew that I was a preacher too, but I worked a day job as well. And he was a religious man and went to a different kind of church. And he says, really, this company is a very good company. You're going to think that God has blessed you, but God doesn't really bless you. You know, it's time and chance that happens to us all. I mean, this is what this church, this group of people, that's what they believe. They believe that when you pray and you ask God, or even if you don't pray, if you just have a desire in your heart for something to happen, they believe that if something good happens in your life, it's time and chance. It's random. I thought, what a first day on the job. Here we are. I'm trying to figure out what when you're new, you're trying to figure out where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. And now we're talking theology in the first 30 minutes. And I didn't want to tell him that he was full of baloney. That's not really the way you want to start your first day on the job. But as he was telling me this, and he quoted this scripture, I actually thought that the job was a blessing from the Lord. I didn't even have a chance to pray for it. Really, I just found out that, wow, I'm unemployed, and it's seemingly the next day, boom, here's this job, and it turned out to be a wonderful blessing to our family and helped us greatly. Yes, I believe it was a blessing from the Lord. You know, there is this theology, if you want to call it theology, it's called deism. And there's different types of deism, but one type of deism is that God is like the watchmaker. In other words, the way these people think is that God created the world, he set everything in motion, and then he took the day off. I mean, he took the rest of the time off. He set everything in motion, and then whatever happens, happens. From the time of creation, they believe from that time on is random, that God has backed off and he doesn't interfere with the affairs of man. The title of our message this morning is The Seemingly Randomness of Life. It does seem random sometimes. You know, when people go to the casino and they gamble, they go and they sit at a slot machine. It's an interesting phenomenon. If I ever go to a casino, it's to eat. You know, because they have low-priced, really good meals. You know, like, oh, prime rib for $6 or something. You know, some outrageously low price you just can't pass up. But you go in there, and they just sit in front of these machines and pull the lever and pull it, and it's almost, who's in control, them or the machine here at this point? It seems like they've been turned into zombies. But that's just, you know, an observer. And they think that the machine is going to be a random, that the results are random. And their hope is that they will be there when the jackpot is given out. But it's not random. The machine was created by man, and the results are the result of a mathematical equation that's programmed into them. They used to be mechanical, but now they're all computerized. It was programmed that way. But from their perspective, it's random. The concept of randomness is debated by philosophers and scientists. One person said that when we see things that seem to be random, and they even bring it down to atomic structure. Honestly, yeah. That their proof of randomness is that when they observe atoms decay, you know, like carbon-14 decays, they call it a nuclear half-life. But a nuclear half-life is not a precise number. It's the average. No, I'm getting too complicated, I know. But it's the average of decay of atomic particles or atoms when they decay to another isotope or even to another element. And when we say some particles have, or some atoms have a half-life of only seconds, while other atomic particles, or atoms, have a half-life of millions of years. Okay? But this determination is only an average of what happens at the atomic level. And they say there is no reason why this atom decays and this one doesn't at a certain time. It is random, they say. And all we're seeing is the average of decay. But and I was reading about this in a thread on, you know, all these intelligent people were saying all these intelligent things, or these arguments concerning randomness. But I like what one person he said. He said, when we see things that seem to be random, such as the breakdown of atoms at the quantum level, however, if there is a higher complexity at work that we are not aware of, then it's random, even though it may not be. Did you follow that? Have I completely lost you? In other words, from our perspective, it seems random. But there may be a higher complex equation at work here. Okay, to put it in the simplest terms. Actually, for one to say anything is random, they would have to possess infinite knowledge. I came up with that. I wish I had just logged in and put my little 2 cents in now. Because you would have to know the interactions of everything to know whether it's random or not. And if you possessed infinite knowledge, while you would just have to be God. Life at times seems to be random. When we look at the events of our lives, we can be tempted to believe they are random. Now, I could say that I am here this morning because I received a random call one day on the telephone. It seemed random, really. But if my wife had not, well, let's back it up even further than that. If a person, we moved in new into the neighborhood, and a person knocked on our door and met with my wife and invited her to church, I was off somewhere doing something. And I think I was out of town, probably in Alaska. And she said, I think I'll go to your church. Well, she went to the church, and she was enamored with the church and the people and everything. I come back from my vacation. She goes, oh, I'm going to church down here, and I'm rolling my eyes. Okay. And after a while, I said, well, I'll go to church with you then. And so I went to church with him, and I felt the same way. I was enamored with the people and everything and enjoyed church and ended up staying in that church. And we became, if you will, members of the church and stayed with them. And then I received a call a couple, 2 or 3 years later from Chico. Said, we would like to know if you'd like to come and visit us and preach for us in church. And I thought, I don't know anybody in Chico. Who, what? And I was just thinking, she goes, are you still there? I said, yeah, I'm still. Sure, I said, we'll come. And the rest is, as they say, history. Now, you could say that was random. Do you believe this morning that was random? That's just a rhetorical question. If you have the watchmaker type of theology, the next question, an obvious question, then would be, why even pray? If he's backed off and he's not going to do anything, then to pray is useless. No miracles. These people believe there are no miracles, no revelation, and no divine intervention. Now, I have a friend. Well, not so much anymore. He's still on my Facebook, but he went to Bible school. I think a little bit after I did. I don't think we went at the same time, but he went to the same Bible school that I went to. He became a minister of the gospel. And after a couple of years out in the ministry, he decided that he would become an agnostic. And he made this statement: God has never, ever answered even one of my prayers. And so then he says, then I question his existence. And now, as the years have passed, he has gone from being an agnostic to a full-blown atheist. Because to him, everything seems random, and that there's no order to it all. I was talking to my wife the other day. I said, and she wasn't even aware of this, I don't think, but we have this visitor that would come to our church every once in a while, and he would come, and I was interested in one of the founders of this specific church denomination, which got really big over the years and had a big influence on society. And I told her that I was thinking about that. I said, I'd like to know. Well, this was kind of before we even had a computer. I don't even think we had a computer, and the internet wasn't really up and going like it is now, and you couldn't just click and,